Drone dominance is a billion-dollar program funded by President Trump's Big, Beautiful Bill. It is purpose-built on the pillars of the War Department's new acquisition philosophy. The second step is to kickstart U.S. industrial capacity and reduced prices so our military can adequately budget for unmanned weapons.
Fellow Americans, members of the Department of War, and patriots across this great nation, we stand today not just to talk about the future of defense, but to admit a painful truth about our recent past. For too long, the Department of War has been trapped in a strategic delusion, a doctrine of drone age hubris that endangered our soldiers and ceded critical dominance to our adversaries. A decade ago, while the Chinese company DJI was industrializing the skies, our generals and defense contractors chose to ignore the small drone as nothing more than a child's toy. They remained fixated on complex billion-dollar systems. The colossal RQ-4 Global Hawk, a magnificent piece of engineering that required 300 trained personnel just to keep it in the air. We were busy building castles while our adversaries weaponized pebbles. And when we finally woke up, the response was an absurd bureaucratic scramble. Instead of learning from a history of massive national infrastructure build-outs, our leadership ran straight to Silicon Valley, throwing contracts at drone brothers with zero operational or systems of systems experience. They tried to win the air war with high-cost prototypes and fragmented thinking, ignoring the powerful, scalable impact that integrated autonomous systems were already having in theaters of conflict around the globe. But perhaps the most egregious failure was the doctrine itself. Think of our most advanced innovation department, DARPA, spending years playing with simulations and orchestrating swarms, only to require our brave soldiers to manually sprint across a battlefield, risking their lives just to hand-launch a drone and swap a battery. It was a ludicrous one-to-one logistics model. This was the very definition of a musket-ball drone strategy, utterly incapable of fielding the millions of systems necessary for mass-scale, resilient defense. That era is over. It ends now. We are leaving behind the musket-ball mentality and moving straight to the modern-day equivalent of the Gatling gun. We will no longer put our brave service members in harm's way because we failed to innovate effectively. The Department of War is institutionalizing the new doctrine of survivability and redundancy. One is none, and two is one. The new foundation for our defense is infrastructure-enabled autonomy. We are pivoting to a comprehensive, interconnected, and autonomous system of systems that solves the fundamental problems of logistics, data, and manpower. This new concept of operations features, first, modular multi-drone depots, MDD standards, and EMP-hardened robotic routers. These weather-shielded depots represent the critical operational platform required for mass deployment and sustained readiness. Second, interchangeable standardized drone cells that support commercial off-the-shelf platforms, housed within these depots for automated storage, data offload, and recharging. Third, we are deploying powerful zero-trust edge computing and communication systems directly at the site of the action, not miles away in a climate-controlled trailer. This eliminates the fatal latency delays that plague remote operations. This new framework is built for autonomous launch, execution, and land sorties. This is the only way to massively scale our operations and achieve the mission frequency required to dominate any contested environment. Our commitment is simple. We will win the next era of robot-centric warfare by leveraging American ingenuity to build the most resilient, most scalable, and most autonomous military architecture in the world. We will secure our troops, and we will secure our nation.
Not be left behind. We must invest in inexpensive unmanned platforms that have proved so effective. We need to outfit our combat units with unmanned systems at scale. We cannot wait.
If you start thinking about these devices as nodes in a network, it fundamentally changes the game.
How is that going to fundamentally change the way we fight? Yep. Robotics and autonomy is the best, and artificial intelligence is the best example I have. It's going to fundamentally change the way we're going to fight. And then, so how do you account for that in future concepts?
Clearly, we need to develop autonomy. Autonomy in significant numbers with a central.
It allowed us to do the high-performance computing at the edge We now see this as a kind of a spectrum of not so much of here's all the things that the operator does in the rear versus here's what's happening out at the front, but really how do you enable the warfighter I'll say at AI at echelon, and because we know
that the UAV thing we're seeing, unmanned aerial system, is really the leading edge of a major tech disruption of the land domain. So it's going to be UAVs and robots, and how do you... And then the really big one that I think is really going to be revolutionary is the nexus of humans and machines. So figuring out how to optimize the integration of humans and machines. So it's a tech, it's a big, autonomy is kind of the center of gravity of that problem, but not to replace humans with robots.
For our country to really reach the scale that it can be, for it to be successful, we need to be the leader in the world of 5G and 6G. So
new era we're entering it. From eVTOLs, drones, autonomous vehicles, to space travel, we're in a global race to out-innovate and out-compete the rest of the world.